So if you have replaced the battery in your car recently, you know how expensive they are. I mean, I have a video here, my recent endeavors of replacing my car battery, and they're really expensive. But can you actually use free solar energy to keep your battery in top shape and prolong the number of years you use it? Or let's say you do not drive that much and you do not want to come back to your car and not be able to start it. There are myriad of different solar panels, chargers, trickle chargers, and so on. So I wanted to buy something moderately powerful and rather cheap to keep my battery topped up. So I bought this eco-worthy 10 watt solar panel trickle charger. It's a 10 watt monocrystalline solar panel with the following specs that you can see here. The cables just like that. It doesn't have any connections. They're just like that. So that's the solar panel. It looks quite nice. Glass, hard aluminum frame. It comes with a 10 watt solar panel. It comes with PWM 10 amps solar charge controller and cables for the car battery. So, but before going on to show you how this is connected and used, I always had a question in my mind. Will this be enough? Will the sun actually be enough to charge and keep my battery charged? So this will be 2.5 months test. I will first charge my battery to full using the Noku Genius 5 charger. Then I'll leave the battery for 20 days, then measure how much the co-cranking amps and the European normal EN have dropped using my Foxwell BT100 Pro car battery, a kind of a measuring device or car battery status. Then I'll charge it again and put it on the solar panel pointing west for 20 days and then measure again co-cranking amps and EN. Then I'll charge it again and keep it on facing south for 20 days and then measure, of course, again. So this should tell me, of course me and of course you, I'm quite interested in myself if this will work out, keeping the battery topped up. So this should tell me if this is good enough, if this 10 watt solar panel with the 10 amp PWM solar charge controller is enough to keep the battery topped up. First of all, how do you connect this kit and how do you use it? First of all, if you have a charge controller, always connect the battery first to the charge controller before connecting the solar panel. Otherwise, this charge controller might burn out. Then you connect the solar panel to the charge controller. I would not recommend connecting the solar panel directly. As I said, if you connect the solar panel to the charge controller first, this might burn out. So this is a 10 watt solar panel. You do not want to overcharge your battery. So I do not recommend connecting directly the solar panel to the battery because you will overcharge your car battery and that's not good for the car battery. So anything above roughly about 5 watts, you would need a charge controller. So this charge controller is eco-worthy, 12 volts, 10 amps. And it will do bulk charging and 14.4 volts, then eventually will go to floating charge at 13.6 volts. It will detect the state of the car battery and it will keep it there. So it will not overcharge your car battery. As far as I know, most charge controllers will do that. So first of all, how do you connect the whole thing? This kit comes with these crocodile clips for a car battery. The red is positive, the black is negative. First of all, on the charge controller, the first two are for the solar panel, the third and fourth are for the car battery. You kind of undo, there is a screw, you probably can't quite see it. You kind of undo the positive, you undo the negative. Then put the positive in, down here underneath, you can plug it in. The positive to the third, you screw it in. Don't tighten it too much. I mean, you have to try that is secure. Then the black to the negative. You have to check that it's secure. Then you connect it to the car battery. So connect the positive to the positive and the negative to the negative. And the load, it's green. So you can kind of see it with this button, you can switch it off, so that's connected. Then you connect the solar panel, the red is positive, the black is negative. They're pretty short, you can make them a bit longer, but you connect to the positive and the negative. And you can see the solar panel has lit, the PV, and you tighten those. Just make sure that they're connected, and this is your connection. The solar panel here, first you connect the battery, then the solar panel, and that's it. You place your solar panel on the dashboard and this will charge your car battery. This is how you connect it. So let's first check how much does this solar panel produce. So this is now it's UK May time, and this will be short circuit, it won't be on load. I'll measure it with my multimeter, not on the load. So let's check if this solar panel can achieve 10 watts measured with a multimeter or short circuit. So here is me. I waited quite a few days in order to find sun, in order to test the maximum of this solar panel. So I'm plugging in my multimeter on amps and trying to find what the maximum amps are under full sunshine in May, and I saw it once 0.61, which is the short circuit on the panel, but here it was 0.59. Then of course also measure the voltages in order to calculate all the watts, and the voltages were 20.6. I think towards the end of the video I got it to 21 volts. I think it's in a second. I'll move it. Of course, I can move the camera away and trying to film it. It was having a shade there. So you get 21 volts. So in other words, to calculate wattage of the solar panel, and this is not under load, this is short circuit, it's 21 volts times 0.59 the amps, you get 12.4 watts. So the panel produces more than it was rated. It's rated 10 watts, but it produces 12.4 watts under May condition in the UK, and the time is roughly about 3:30 in the afternoon. So instead of the simple setup that I showed you from solar charge control going to the battery that is down there and the solar panel coming in, I have a bit more complex setup. But it's nothing really that complicated. Basically, I've just added measuring device that measures volts, milliamperes, watts, watt hours, milliampere hours, and so on. It has a shunt in there. That's the only thing. And I just have a little board that I can just easily move it to the west and the south. Basically, the positive comes from the solar panel, the positive and the negative. Then I have a little fuse that you can kind of undo. That's a little fuse, 5 amp fuse. So all the components that I've used are in the description of the video if you want to check them out. I have a little switch. This is from toothpaste, I think, and a little switch there. There is a splitter of the positive and the negative too. So the negative goes, so the positive and the negative go to this measuring device that measures milliampere hours, watts, and so on. And the negative, only one single negative comes out and goes in the input. And from the positive goes to the positive, the same thing. And then the two negative go out again. Another fuse, 5 amp fuse, and then they go to the battery. So the battery is there connected, and you can see that's my device. Currently measures 12.8 volts, but currently it's 6 o'clock in the evening, so it's just volts. But the milliamperes, if this is less than 20 milliamperes, it just doesn't show anything. That's why it's showing 0. Volts shows watt hours, not volts, watts. Watt hours, then it shows cumulative milliampere hours, then the cumulative hours that this has been running. Inside it's not really complicated. I've put it in a box just because it's easier. There is a shunt that the negative goes to. It's pretty simple device, and I can easily measure how many milliamperes and what watts the device. But simply this whole board here, I have just 2 fuses, and I can measure and calculate how much, if it's a sunny day or if it's a cloudy day, how much watts has the panel produced. That's it. It's a bit more complicated, but it's not actually that complicated. So one might ask, why you go into all this effort? You connect the solar panel, it charges the car battery, keeps it topped up, it's all good. but it's not quite like that. If you have a charge controller, and this is always connected to the car battery, it draws a bit of energy. This consumes 35 milliamperes or 35 milliampere hours, so 35 milliamperes per hour. When it's overnight or there is no sunshine or the solar panel is not producing anything, whether this is during the night or it's just overcast raining, this constantly draws 35 milliampere hours. So the question is the sun gonna be enough if this is gonna draw too much power and then your car battery get drained? So that's why I'm doing this with 20 days to try to see if the sun will be enough. I'll be also recording how much milliampere hours is produced during the day, so the measuring device just measures how much the solar panel produces before everything else going to the battery. I could have put it after the solar panel to measure how much is going into the battery, but I just wanted to see how much the solar panel is producing. So I'll not gonna show all the measurements. I'll have results at the end of the video because it just will take too much time and you just looking at measurements. I'll only record the first measurement, then leaving it for 20 days and then record how much the battery has been drained. Let's first charge it with the Noku Genius 5. It's currently on standby, so I'll press it on mode for 12 volts. So it'll go 25%, 50, 75 and 100%. Once this is solid green, I'll disconnect it. So I'll leave it till the next day to measure how much is the starting point. So here is car battery yesterday. Today is 14th at 5 o'clock. Today is also 5 o'clock. I left it 24 hours after charging it. Now let's measure with Foxwell BT100 to see what the current state of health is of that battery, and then I'll leave it for 2 weeks. Positive, negative. 12.92 volts, battery test, out of vehicle, regular. This is 760 EN, I'll do 760 CCA and 760 EN. So let's first start with the CCA 760. Let's see what the state of health is. Measured 654 out of 760 CCA, so it says good battery, that's actually quite good. 72% state of health, 4.8 milliohm resistance. Let's do the same with the EN, the 760 EN. So it says replace battery, of course, 599 EN out of 760, 66%, 4.81 milliohms. So now I'll leave it 2 weeks and take a measurement again after 2 weeks. And this will stay at home, in-house, roughly, let's say 20 degrees all around, not during the night, but it won't be under harsh conditions. So let's see how low this will be in 2 weeks. So it has been exactly 20 days since I left this battery here at my house. So let's see what's the condition of the battery after 20 days sitting without doing anything. My Foxwell BT100, let's see, 12.83 volts, battery test, out of vehicle, regular. I'll first do the CCA, it's 760 EN, I'll do first 760 CCA, 760, testing. And currently it says replace battery, 630 CCA out of 760, so it has dropped quite a bit, not that much. You can see the previous numbers here. 70% state of health, 4.98 milliohms resistance, so the resistance has increased. So let's see as well the EN. So EN, 760 EN. Of course it will say replace the battery. 580 EN out of 760, 64% state of health and 4.95 milliohm resistance. So obviously the battery has dropped a bit with the voltage and state of health. So now first thing is to charge it again with the Noku Genius 5 charger. Currently it's 5 o'clock, the same time 20 days later. I'll charge it, leave it for 24 hours and then test it again. This whole experiment started 13th of May 2022, and I spent 2.5 months, now it's 24th of July, to do this experiment. And this is all the data that I've gathered. One is measuring the car battery before and after charging and so on, to have a baseline and to see how much charge can you keep the car battery charged using this 10-watt solar panel. So first of all, because before showing you the result, whether it has worked or not, let me show you the difference between the west and southeast. I couldn't have a south because my house is positioned southeast. I also positioned the solar panel behind the glass in the house. So this was to simulate the glass behind the car in your vehicle, in your car. So first of all, this is exactly, if you say this is exactly 20 days, and this is also exactly 20 days, both on southeast and west. So for the west, there were quite a few rainy days, so there were 4 rainy days, so these here, there are 4 rainy days, and in the southeast, not southwest, there were no rainy days. Unfortunately, I cannot control the weather, so that's how it is. Overall, there were more cloudy days in the southeast as compared to the west, but there were 4 rainy days. Overall, I got 9,310 milliampere hours cumulative. That's overall 9.3 ampere hours from the west and 10.7 ampere hours from the southeast from this 10-watt solar panel. However, this is the same thing whether you do it hours worked. So how many hours this my device that was measuring the milliampere hours and amperes and watts. There were 124 hours kind of cumulative for the west, 147 hours from the southeast. Of course there would be more because there were a few rainy days, and it doesn't measure that this device doesn't measure if the milliampere hours it's below 20 milliamperes. So in other words, that's why this is fewer. Overall, watt hours per day, how many watts per day, watt hours per day, it's 132 and 146 from the southeast as compared to the west. I mean, if there were a few more sunny days or cloudy days in the west, probably they would be roughly about the same. So I've also compared here average milliampere hours for the sunny days from the west, which is 622 milliampere hours, and it's a 651 milliampere hours when they're sunny days from the southeast. So in other words, it's a bit more. You get a bit more milliampere hours from the west as compared to the southeast. On the cloudy days on the west, I mean, I put them cloudy. Sometimes it's a bit more cloud, sometimes it's a bit less cloudy. I mean, I should have probably written it a bit more granular. It's 254 milliampere hours on a cloudy day on the west, and roughly about 419 milliampere hours on the southeast. There were no rainy days, so if you see here, there were no rainy days from the southeast. So now the actual results. So these are my measurements. Let me move this away. This is how many cold cranking amps after the first charge. Then I waited 20 days and then measured again. Then second charge, I waited 24 hours to measure it, then put it to the west. Then I measured it again and then put it to the southeast. So this is after the first charge, 24 hours after the Noku Genius 5 charge, and I got 654 cold cranking amps. Then I waited 20 days and I got 630 cold cranking amps. So it dropped substantially. This is about, well, not substantially, but it dropped about 4%. Then I charged it again after these 20 days and I got 661. This is about the same. And then after 20 days using the solar panel facing west, I got 638 cold cranking amps. So one could say, well, yeah, this is more than 630, but overall this drop, this is 4% drop, this is also 4% drop. So in other words, the solar panel facing west doesn't really do that much to the battery, doesn't really keep it topped up if you just leave it on its own. Maybe the number of rainy days affected that, I don't know. I mean, I have to probably do this for a whole year in order kind of to get average data, but that's quite a long. This will be like 3 years test. Then I charged it again and left it, the solar panel, to the battery on the facing southeast behind the glass in my living room, just kind of to simulate the shield in your car. So I charged it and it was 646, so it's a bit less than 654 and 661. Well, maybe I kept it a bit longer than 24 hours. I charge it, then leave it for 24 hours. Maybe I kept it a bit longer, not too sure. So it dropped a bit more, so I didn't really quite charge it. But then keeping it on the southeast, it actually increased from the 646 cold cranking amps. It increased to 650. So the southeast, actually, it worked really well. So it doesn't matter if you compare it to the initial charge, 646 cold cranking amps. This is a lot more than 638 and 630, and it's fairly close to the 654, the initial charge. This is 650, just for less than 654. So what I'm trying to say that it does work, having a solar panel connected to your car battery, this 10 watt solar panel, my kit with a solar charge controller, with a PWM solar charge controller, but you need proper sunshine. And this is May, June and July months in the UK. So I suspect that during the winter, this might not work that well. It's still better than nothing, of course, but the solar charge controller might drain a bit the battery if there is a lot more rainy days. So you have to make sure that your solar panel is facing south or southeast. So this is it. It does work, but you have to be careful where you position your solar panel. Thank you very much indeed. Let me know. This took 2.5 months, a lot of work, a lot of editing. Thank you very much indeed for watching. If you have any comments, let me know in the comment section on my video. Thank you very much indeed.